Good evening. Welcome to another episode of our month-long e-conclave on breast cancer, brought to you by the IHW Council and Novartis India. I'm Anisha Nair Thavan, your host for the day. In our show today, we will discuss the changing landscape of breast cancer in India. But before we start the discussion and welcome our esteemed panelists, here's a snapshot of the ground that we have covered in the Breast Cancer Action Month, addressing India's breast cancer epidemic, moving from awareness to action. We kick-started a month-long campaign on October 1 and have had a lot of experts joining us with their views and opinions. Here's a quick recap of that.
Breast cancer is the number one type of cancer in women today. To exhort and encourage all of us to move from awareness to action, ISW Council, in partnership with Novartis India, embark on month-long mega virtual conclave, Breast Cancer Action Month.
Awareness around cancer, awareness around women health, awareness about around all the artificial things that we engage in, and vanity has its own impact on our health, and I think it's time to turn the tables on the other side.
Breast cancer is actually a neglected subject for our medical students at the same time. So I feel a push for medical education, a push for innovation, and a push for decentralization of three things are very high on my wish list.
The problem is really at two levels. One is, like I said, with the media centering a lot of communication around what is significant in that month. And the second is, as a society itself, we just don't want to mention the word breast.
Why do you think that the people in US, they are diagnosed stage 0? 80% of the ladies, the disease is diagnosed in stage 0, 1 and 2. While in India, it is 80% stage 3 and 4. Why? Only one reason, the awareness.
You know, the single biggest risk factor for all cancers, including breast cancer, is aging. If you live longer, then you are more predisposed to get all kinds of non-communicable diseases, including cancers, including breast cancer.
So there were three things which I think you should not have a fear, you should have an early consultation, and you should not consider any other pathy. You should go for only evidence-based medicine.
At the moment, the issue is that three factors. A, do not recognize when it happens to them. B, when they recognize, they take so much time to report that it becomes late stage. And C, that what kind of treatment are available and they receive finally.
When the lady goes to a gynecologist, she should also be counseled about breast health, and maybe a breast examination should be done, and maybe self-breast examination should be taught.
Today, the importance in a cancer is not only the stage, the biology of the tumor, the background of the patient's, like the profile of positive family history or not, and the patient's comorbidities, including lifestyles, maybe agar wo obese hai, thin built hai, he has comorbidities, he has heart ailments or not. So that is put together.
So we have to be very proactive and start observing each and every sign. And also we should not ignore any signs and symptoms that we come across.
The treatment goal for advanced breast cancer actually is to prolong the life and maintain the quality of life. So this is a very key point for the current treatment for advanced breast cancer.
Thank you all for joining us on the show today. Fight against breast cancer, we need awareness and action at all levels. This is something all our experts have underlined. And to make every woman and man become an ambassador of good breast health, we at IHW Council have begun a mass movement of taking a pledge that each one of us will talk about breast health with at least 5 people in our lives. This is a pledge that can really save the lives of so many women who are impacted or could get impacted with breast cancer. The lawmakers, social leaders, influencers, medical experts who have joined us to chart out our way forward and prevent breast cancer in India have shown their exceptional support to this campaign. We're also thankful to Novartis India for its support to this movement. We would request all our panelists joining us today, as well as those who are viewing this show, to sign this pledge by clicking on in the comment box of this live post. You can also sign the pledge by visiting the ISW Council website, www.iswcouncil.org, and sign the pledge. Once you sign the pledge, you will receive a certificate with your name on it. Do share this certificate on your social media handles by tagging 5 people to take this pledge and make this a movement so that more and more people become aware about breast cancer and sign this pledge so that we have early detection and good outcomes of breast cancer treatment in our country. Now, let's come back to what we're going to discuss on the show today. Now, management of breast cancer depends on several patient-related factors, the stage of the disease, and predictive and prognostic factors, which include age, family history of cancer, the size of the tumor, hormone receptor status, as well as the kind of access to healthcare and the affordability. Now, most breast cancer patients are offered treatments that include surgery or systemic therapy with either hormone therapy, chemotherapy, or targeted therapy in various combinations and sequences, and sometimes even radiotherapy. Now, several oncological breakthroughs have been tested successfully, like molecular-based classification and personalized treatments. This has also led to improvement in overall progression-free and relapse-free survival. But do factors like access to healthcare and the cost of treatment also impact optimal management of breast cancer patients in India? This is something that we will be discussing today. And let's now welcome our experts who will be shining light on this topic and sharing with us their views. Please welcome Dr. Laltendu Sarangi, Director, Acharya Harihar Postgraduate Institute of Cancer, Cuttack. We have Dr. Pramod Kumar Julka, Senior Director, Max Institute of Cancer Care. We also have, and please welcome, Dr. Abhishek Shankar, Assistant Professor, Department of Radiation Oncology, Lady Hardinge Medical College, and Founder, Secretary, Indian Society of Clinical Oncology, Delhi. And we also have Mr. Somil Modi, Oncology General Manager, Novartis Oncology, India. And we have with us Anju Yadav. She's a breast cancer survivor, and she's going to tell us what it's like for patients and how she related to the management of breast cancer in our country. A warm welcome to all of you to this show. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Julka.
Yes.
We want to understand how cancer treatment in our country has evolved. My mommy had cancer, breast cancer, more than 20 years ago. And at that point of time, she was besides herself with the side effects of chemotherapy. But today she is completely cancer-free and she's still surviving more than 20 years on. So how has the landscape changed of cancer treatment within our country? Is there a set protocol on what could be done depending on what kind of tumor the patient has, whether the node is impacted or the receptors are responsive? Is there a set guideline, or is there a lot of flexibility with the oncologist to treat the patient?
Yes, now let me start my journey of breast cancer from 1975 onwards, because I started treating breast cancer. First patient I treated in 1975 when I started my post-graduation in breast cancer and management, and I was in US at that time, and I was part of the NSABP trials with University of Pittsburgh. So what I mean to say that in 70s or 80s, everybody got mastectomy done, means breast removal. Everybody got radiotherapy, irrespective of receptors, because that time we didn't have receptors status at all. Now, as we moved on to more late 80s and 90s, when we started having hormone receptors in 90s, and then we started doing ER/PR, estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor, and HER2 gene. And I wish I could have brought my patients who are 30 years, who were treated for the last 30 years, and they are all right. and they were HER2 positive. So, and they were given weekly or 3 weekly Herceptin. It used to be called Herceptin. That is a monoclonal antibody which uh, arrives and hurts the HER2 gene. Now, the main problem is that we have more molecular markers now, which we didn't have earlier, because earlier people had more toxicity of chemotherapy, as you told earlier. So, because we didn't have anti vomiting drugs, good anti emetic drugs, good drugs to prevent, to give as a pre medication for prevention of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all these. We didn't have good drugs. We had simple drugs which worked for some time, and then later on they couldn't work as fast as now they are working. But now we have a whole molecular profile, and we are doing molecular profile for every patient. Now, this is an era of precision medicine. What is precision medicine? Is personalized medicine. Two patients of the same stage, stage 1 breast cancer, will not receive the
The
same
same
treatment.
treatment.
Same treatment. I want to highlight this because it is an era of precision medicine, personalized medicine, and it depends on your hormone receptor status, depends on HER2 gene, and now we have certain other molecular factors which we are doing molecular profiling for all the patients. Why we are doing molecular profiling? Because hormone receptors, once we give hormones to hormone receptor positive patients, they get resistance. Now, once they get resistance, why do they get resistance? Because of mutations in certain genes called PI3 kinase gene mutations or ESR1 mutation. Now, these
Right.
genes, the new genes which have come, we are getting the molecular profiling. The only problem is the cost, here, because if we send it to Foundation One in US, which is the only FDA approved lab, they charge about 2.5 to 3 lakhs per patient per test. So that gives us more insight into the molecular biology of the tumor, and we know more about biology, and then we can give drugs according to the biology. Just like
So, Dr. Julka, so it's 2.5 lakhs just for the test. We're not even talking about the treatment
for
here.
the test. Just for the test, I have got the maximum test done for those who were reimbursed, from their company or from CGHS or from ECHS or whatever, they had the license. Now, another thing what I want to highlight is, as in lung cancer, we have one gene mutation, then one drug. So similarly, for here, if PIK3 kinase mutation is there, we have a drug called alpelisib. So that drug works wonderfully for PI3 kinase mutation patients. So, sometimes we wonder why patients are developing resistance. There are resistance pathways, and sometimes like HER2 positive, we gave Herceptin to that patient for a long time. After 2 years or 3 years, patient became resistant. Now, why the patient became resistant? Because of some mTOR AKT
Mutation.
pathway, another pathway. So we gave everolimus one drug, oral drug, and the patient became all right. So what I am saying, I have patients whom I treated in 80s or late 70s. In 84, whom I treated, I saw the patient the other day coming with a smile that she is perfectly all right. And 90s, so many patients are coming. Abhishek was our student in AIMS, and he knows how many patients, I have treated, must have treated over 20,000 patients of breast cancer. And
And some of them are still alive, happy, alive and kicking and happy.
yes, alive
and disease free.
Disease free, 20-year survival. I am going to
Okay.
do a genetic study on them who are 20 years plus survival. So
Please share the study findings with us as well. But this is so heartening to hear, Dr. Julka, that you have patients you treated 20 years ago, they're still alive, kicking, happy, disease-free. Because when we talk about breast cancer in our country, somehow the statistics are not very rosy compared to the survival rate in the Western countries. In our country, it's lower. I want to come to you, Dr. Shankar. Dr. Julka said that 30 years ago, everybody underwent a mastectomy. And today that is not required because our treatment has advanced so much. You can do breast conservation and have the same outcomes along with adjunct treatments and therapies. But I want to understand from you, Dr. Shankar, isn't it true that a large majority of breast cancer patients still undergo a mastectomy? Largely, and these are ones who come from rural areas, they present themselves in advanced stages, but they still willingly want to go and get the mastectomy done because they're like, I don't want to come back. Come back to the city, get treated. It's added expense, a prolonged treatment. They believe that, remove the breast, even though there is a stigma attached to this, but better do this than to, prolong my treatment. Is this true?
First of all, breast cancer is the most common cancers among women. And apart from being the most common cancer in women, it is most talked about cancer, because I don't think breast cancer needs any more awareness, at least in the metropolitan city. People are more than aware. But apart from the awareness, if you see their attitude towards breast cancer, probably all the people who live in Delhi has a pseudo attitude, and this is all because of this place we live. But coming to the practice, it's very bad. It's very, very bad. People have knowledge, people have attitude, but until and unless you practice what is required to detect it early, probably all the practice, all the knowledge you don't have of any use. So this is the thing. And I always tell that doctors and oncologists and, people from the industry must come out from the, the aroma of breast cancer. They'll also talk about other cancer because, one more important thing, and why I call it is the most glamorous cancer also, because Angelina Jolie has added so much glamour to it. And that is because I usually, thought to call her mother of cancer prevention, but it was very difficult for me to call Angelina Jolie a mother. So I thought I will call her lady of cancer prevention, because the way she has propagated one message related to the gene, people has no awareness about symptom. People has no awareness about the risk factors, but they are well aware about the gene of Angelina Jolie, which is BRCA1 and 2. I have taken many lectures in Delhi University and people are so versed.
So let me ask Soumil, what can work to everywhere where there's cancer in our country?
Yeah, so let me take this question in two parts. Aisha. One part surely being that, and Dr. Julka would also agree with me here, that when we compare ourselves where we were in 1990 or 2000 as far as specialist cancer center treatments were concerned, right? There used to be far and few. You would have an AIMS, you would have a Tata, you would have very few centers across the country. From there, we've come a long way in the last 20 years, that even if you go to a tier 1 and tier 2 today, you have specialist cancer centers. So it's not all that bad what it used to be, or, it's improving. I would not say it's there at every village or every taluka, there is a specialist cancer center, but it's much better than what it used to be earlier. A lot of dedicated onco centers like HCG, like practically every hospital chain wants to get into it, and they have dedicated centers across the country. So they're doing their bit there as well. To your point, currently Novartis is working with Japaigo in Orissa, and we have a program called Saksham where we trying to train in district hospitals and doctors further as well, so that they can help really screen patients with breast cancer, screen them early. So the whole point here is, how do we get these patients early? How do we really educate? Because to give you a very personal example here, right? So what happens is, when I tell my wife, go and get a mammography done or do self breast examination, for her it's easy to digest, she'll do it. My grandmother had breast cancer. When I tell my mom, she's so ignorant. She said, I'm not going to get anything. I will not do it. So still in our country, I think that part of the thing where we have to go and educate people so that they can do self-breast examination is very important. And we're doing our bit in terms of going to smaller villages, educating, and we are also working with ASHA workers. I know, there can be various views, but they reach people in their houses, right? So somewhere we have to use the existing infrastructure, train them, all of them may not be 100%, but we have to make that effort to ensure that we get self breast examination and remove the stigma around self breast examination, even in the villages and the other places as well. So I think that would be my take, Aisha, on this.
I want to come to you, Anju. How did you find out, Anju?
I come from the world of media. I've been with, I was with NDTV for 23 years. And so we also try to do this cancer campaign, awareness campaign, especially after, when I went through breast cancer, I've seen that we do it. But just coming back to how I caught it, I actually caught it, and Dr. Julka is here, and he was quite instrumental, if I may say so, in my catching my cancer very early. Dr. Julka and I had sort of associated on a program together, where he actually encouraged me to think about doing a documentary to spread awareness about breast cancer. So instead of talking about the products and the technologies and just, things which were very sort of distant for common man, we actually brought down basic things to say that, when you notice anything, these are the kind of things that you do. You go to the doctor. You go and get a mammo done. So it was, I think, in December 2015 that I felt a lump on my breast. And I had just finished a documentary the last month. And I felt that lump, and the lump had stayed on for some time. But because I was aware of this, this early detection is cure. And after about like a couple of days, I just decided to go for mammo. And when I went for mammo, Dr. Pant, he just said, FNAC, I want to do. And the moment he said that, I kind of knew that it is happening. So that's how I detected that, mine was stage 1 breast cancer. And so it was actually, it came from awareness. It came from, being normal conversations, which are not so technical. And may I just, without like sounding, disrespectful, I want to just say that, one thing that happens on most of the conversation topics is that the doctors take it to a level of high-tech technology conversations, which completely, break the chain for a common man. If you're going to be talking about in a certain language that you understand, the common person doesn't understand. What are the challenges for someone like me who had done a documentary, who knew inside out, who knew what are the various steps? When I got detected, I looked at Dr. Pant and said, where do I go? Because I don't want to go to Rajiv Gandhi because it's very far. I don't want to go. I want it to be convenient also, the treatment. And I'm fortunate that I landed with Dr. Harith and in the able hands of Dr. Julka, Dr. Harith, Dr. Sapna Nangia. So I got the right treatment. I went through surgery. I went through chemo. I went through radiation. But I led a very, very normal life.
Yes, and I will vouch for that, because Anju came back to office and she was cracking the whip as if nothing had changed. And you're like, oh my God, Anju, aren't you recovering? So Anju, through the course of our shows, we have had a lot of guests join us, and we have tried to keep it as simple as possible to create the awareness. But what I wanted to ask from you, Anju, is that, you found out on your own, and I've asked a lot of cancer patients how they felt. Now, I want to ask you how the people around you felt. What reactions did you get? And did that, color your view about the disease you had?
So so actually in my case, the reaction of the people didn't matter, because for me, when I knew that it is stage 1, I knew that it was curable. That was number 1. I got detected on 4th of January 2016, and 13th of January, I was on my flight to Switzerland, to Davos, for a conference after being operated on 9th of January. And Dr. Harith, when he had finished the surgery and he had come out, and when he looked at me, and I just opened my eyes and I just looked at him and I said, Davos? He said, go, go, go. So in 5 days, I was gone. And I came back, and so my results had come out, and they said that I didn't need chemo, and I was jumping. And one of the social aspects of chemo is hair, right? I lost all my hair. I didn't want to go and Dr. Julka counseled me. And I remember, Dr. Julka, what you said? I almost broke down in front of him once. And I said, I'm going to pray that I don't lose my hair if I have to go through chemo. He said, if you lose your hair, which means that the medicine is working. So he says, don't pray in the reverse direction.
Anju, you have a full head of hair now. I don't think you missed anything.
No, I told her, hair will come back and they will be more curly and they will be more black.
And that has happened in her case, look at her. One more question, Anju, I want an answer from. You told, doctor, can I please go to the divorce? And he said, please go. You led such a normal life. Do you think the treatment was hard on you? Did it disrupt your life? What would you like to say to people who hear about cancer and think, oh my God, how can I lead a normal life after being diagnosed with breast cancer, whatever stage it may be, even if it is early stage? What would you like to tell them about the process you went through? How daunting is it?
See, I think it's as daunting as any illness. It depends on the severity of the illness and how your body takes it. I am a very fit person. I was always into fitness. I remember. It was a
walking to the gym together. I remember.
Yeah. So I used to actually swap my shifts to go to the gym. And so we had no family history of cancer. Nobody, as far as both sides of the family could remember. We had no history. I had no reason to believe that, I will ever get cancer. But I got it and I faced it. And I think that it is a lot about, there are social factors, there are psychological factors, and then there are some very basic, and I'm not getting into the medical factors with the with the esteemed panel that you have here. How you get by, at least how I got by, was kind of intelligent support, as I call it. That intelligent support is, don't surround yourself with people who are constantly telling you sab theek ho jayega. These vague things don't matter. Obviously, listen to your doctor. Don't Google doctor yourself, and try and follow like what is being prescribed to you. I think in my case, one thing that was missing, which I actually spoke later, and we tried to work on it, was there is so much of surround sound that comes into your life when you get cancer. Somebody will say giloy khalo, somebody will say do wheatgrass, and somebody will say do this treatment in that whatever. Somebody, this guy, he's very good, this Ayurveda is good. I'm not saying Ayurveda is bad, I'm not saying anything is good or bad, but at that point you cannot go shopping for these solutions. You have to place your trust in the doctor. It's very important to establish that you can trust the doctor. It is very important. I don't know, Dr. Julka can advise if there is any better diet now, because that was my question then. The moment I picked up I remember I was at an event and I picked up like a jalebi, and someone said, oh, don't eat jalebi, you have cancer. I was like, yes, so they said, don't eat sweets. And I was like, are you sure? No, don't eat sweets. When you eat sweets, your cancer increases. So it was things like that. It's those myths which have to really break. At the end of the day, I put it all aside. And I just told my mom that, just give me good food that I'm used to. I lost complete taste because of chemo. Completely, I lost taste. And my palate had become horrible. And but I think it's a way of life. If you are on any medication, if you're on a TB medication for 9 months,
it's bad.
Any medication is what I felt. And I used to always do creative visualization. I remember that when I finished my after surgery, I got an OncoDX test, and I had gone to Dr. Julka again at that time, and I did not want to go for that test. So between going to Davos and Dr. Julka's consult, Joe Biden had come to Davos that time, and there was a nanotechnology conference happening there. And there they spoke about the OncoDX test. So I came back and we discussed, and I got the test done. And unfortunately, my result was such that they pushed me to chemo. And that was it. I did chemo, I did radiation, and it was gone in 6 months.
And you are back to your normal self, cracking the whip in office. Thank you so much, Anju, for joining us.
Thank you.
And sharing with us how you detected the cancer and how you dealt with it, and how it never stopped you from doing what you always were doing. Dr. Salangi, Anju said that she was aware because of the documentary she was working with Dr. Julka, and it was on the back of her mind, and she saw the alarm. She knew what she had to do. In Cuttack, what is the kind of awareness about this breast cancer? Is there still a big stigma attached to having breast cancer? How can we overcome this if it is still there?
Mrs. Devan, what's the composition of the audience right now? Whether it's a doctor, it's a general people, what is the
It is
composition?
everybody. Dr. Sarangi, it's everyone.
So I'll put it, I'm a surgeon, and I compliment Dr. Sankar. He had said that we are been doing from moonshot awareness campaign or cancer detection campaign. We should have a ground shot. I was in Odisha. What happens is there is one comprehensive cancer center at Cuttack, and there are few cancer centers at Bhubaneswar. So essentially all the cancer treatment is surrounded by in these two cities, and largely the entire state of Odisha was devoid of any cancer treatment. So what happens that whenever there's a patient of cancer, then he is being pushed to these two cities. And these two cities are being crowded, and if you don't have the means to get yourself treated, then ultimately you land up in our center. That's the only government comprehensive cancer center. And it's a terribly crowded center with disease burden to cancer breast ranging from anything about stage 2 to stage 4, around 80%, as Dr. Advani has said. And early breast cancer used to be hardly negligible. So when you realized that, if you talk of West and talk of this country, West breast cancer is entirely different. It's a non-palpable. If you go little biology, when one cell divides, when there's a 32 division, then only there's a 1 centimeter tumor. And in 40 division, the host dies. So that is the limit of 32 division and 40 division, which is the disease we see in this country. So it's better not to talk of disease which we see in the West. We should concentrate on a disease which we see here. Essentially, our emphasis should be, if we can do the awareness, do the best early detection, if we can downstage the disease from stage 4 to stage 3, stage 3 to stage 2, stage 2 to stage 1, even about 20% of patients suppose we downstage them, then I think for last coming 5 years, our job is done. Cancer has never been a priority subject in this country for last 10 years. It all started after 2010. And when the government of India had all this state cancer institute, tertiary cancer centers, then the NPCDS program then focus on early detection for oral cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, training the ASAs, ANMs. That kind of awareness started largely in the last 4 or 5 years. That will take some time to happen. What Ravi Kannan is doing in Kachari is essentially a research-based, a community-based, isolated, individualistic approach. And if we can replicate the whole of the country on a government base, then that can happen. What Odisha has done by seeing the magnitude of the problem that rural Odisha, or even why rural Odisha, even other cities of Odisha doesn't have the proper cancer treatment. From 2015 to 2016, what we started is, we started in all 30 district cancer care centers. So those are the centers where we trained 1 MBBS doctor and 2 nurses. And we created a nucleus of cancer care center in each district headquarter hospital. And this doctor is connected to Acharya Harrier, and there is one doctor called Dr. Dinesh Pendarkar. So he has been the mentor of this program, and he is connected 24/7, and these doctors are connected to our center through telemedicine network. So what we started doing is, the patients who require repetitive chemotherapy, like suppose you want adjuvant chemotherapy of breast cancer after the surgery is being done, you want a breast cancer treatment on chemotherapy, instead of that person coming to our center regularly, he can be advised to take chemotherapy at a district hospital. And that person, that doctor over there, can contact with us with a telemedicine center. By this, we try to shift the task and shift the load of cancer care into the districts.
So this nucleus when we started, then we added palliative care to it. Now we have added a cancer awareness and cancer screening activities, which Government of India through NPCDS is promoting. So this nucleus can work as a peripheral, ground level district cancer center where you can have these three cancers, oral cancer, cervical cancer. Suppose if you have early detection for these three cancers, I think our 50% of problem is solved. So what we have started for last 2 years is to try to have a cancer, early cancer detection program. And Japaigo has started doing in 2 districts. In Khurda districts, I think other district is Dhenkanal or something like that. They have started doing it. Because of this corona scare, they are not able to really ground the program, but they will be doing it shortly. Maybe in another 5 years' time, we will be able to tell you whether it has really impact. Because controlling from doing it from the apex center, going for a camp mode, it's not going to solve the problem. It has to be done on a regular basis, routine basis. Then only you can downstage the disease.
Right. So, Dr. Julka, you've spoken about a decentralized model, cancer care centers where you don't necessarily have an oncologist, but you have a trained MBBS doctor who's made aware of this. Now, if the facility exists, what is the chance that women will start presenting themselves willingly, openly on their own? What is the pull and the push factor of these district cancer centers?
So what? Dr. Julka is going to speak.
Hello.
Dr. Sarangi, you go first, then I'll go to Dr. Julka.
So what we have thought next step is, see, ASA cannot do it because ASAs are untrained people. What Dr. Shankar has said, you have to concentrate on the ANMs. ASAs are only mobilize the women to the district, to a place where this clinical breast examination can be done. So next step is you train one surgeon and one gynecologist in each district or in each subdivision hospital. You have to teach them only 2 things: how to do a proper examination, how to detect a cancer of breast, how to detect a cancer of cervix, and how to detect a cancer or some abnormality, and how to take a proper biopsy of the oral cancer. And suppose the surgeon is little interested, a core needle biopsy can be done for a palpable lesion at the periphery, at the subcenter level itself. That is going to save a lot of problem of that lady traveling from his village to the district hospital. She may not agree to go there, and then thereby delay the diagnosis.
Right. Dr. Julka, healthcare was perhaps never been a big important factor spending-wise for a country as large as ours for the government. And perhaps this corona pandemic is going to change a little of that. Perhaps more investments will be made, like Dr. Sarangi has told us about this decentralized efforts of having cancer centers, which perhaps lead to better coverage.
So can I add one more thing? See, this decentralization has worked because Odisha government is committed to free treatment. The entire treatment is free, be it chemotherapy drugs, be it radiotherapy, be it surgery, be it CT scan, be it MRI scan. We have installed MRI CT scans at the district headquarters hospitals, entirely free of cost. So that is why there are people now, they are motivated to come to the hospital for the treatment. Earlier when they were paying, they were not that motivated. So that may be one of the factors why now we are getting people who really wants to get. Now, Dr. Julka.
Right. Dr. Julka, in a country of our size, having free treatment is really sounding like utopia. We had a doctor joining us.
Not utopia, because this point was discussed in a very high level meeting with our health secretary, finance secretary. He said, when we started giving cancer chemotherapy free, the first year, the total budget of the state was 25 crores only. You constructed bridge, it is 1,000 crores. And when we keep on doing it multiple times, then the cost comes down. See, you have to put a Lakshman Rekha.
No, Dr. Sarangi, what I was saying was that even in Tamil Nadu, we had a doctor from Tamil Nadu joining us, where she said that, cancer care had become so affordable that mammograms were done for just 200 rupees. So this is definitely, very good news that, care can reach so many people. But Dr. Julka, even in advanced countries like America, cancer care breaks you, it bankrupts you. And in our country also, many people cannot afford the treatment, and hence they go for those treatments that seem less expensive and less cumbersome. So what would you say to this? Do you think free cancer treatment will be available to everyone soon enough?
Yeah, that is what I am telling you. He is talking of Cuttack. I must compliment Dr. Sarangi. But Cuttack, I have been several times and I delivered lectures in Cuttack Career Institute. I think in 90s and 2000. I used to go when Dr. Senapati was there. I think
you can come now. It's a sea change.
Scenes must have changed. Talking of 20 years back. But what I am saying, in AIMS, stay in a hospital like AIMS, I gave all the poor patients free chemotherapy for everybody, except for Herceptin or except for high-five drugs. Chemotherapy I used to give free of cost. And you can't believe it in AIMS. And I have been giving it for so many years. I was faculty of AIMS for 32 years when I retired from AIMS in 2016. Now, after that, then even like molecule, I used to request the company to various companies who had come up to give a patient assistance program, at least even now, even in the private center, I am trying to do free treatment for some patients. Can you believe it? So what I'm totally patient-centric person and workaholic. That is why even at this age, I'm working like a 16-year-old child.
Right. Dr. Churka, everybody is nodding in agreement here, at least. All panelists I see nodding in agreement here.
It is not sympathy for the patient, it is empathy for the patient.
Yes, that is definitely very important. And that is how, patients will also come forward if they feel that the doctor really cares for them. They will definitely not feel shy about talking about their problems.
If the patient becomes all right, the patient's PET scan is normal, everything, I feel internal happiness in that. I don't know.
Right. Definitely. That is the reason why they say that next to God, the only person on earth is a doctor. Dr. Shankar, for the benefit of all the viewers who are watching, could you tell us what are the line of treatments which are available to breast cancer patients, whatever the stage they are in? And, like Dr. Sarangi is saying, Dr. Julka is saying, if, the cost is not a constraint, what can be offered to patients? What is the line of treatment?
Treatment for most of the cancers, the majority which is accessible tumor, surgery is the mainstay of treatment for breast cancer. And you can't save the life of any patient without surgery. After that, radiotherapy, it depends on the histopathology, the report after the surgery. And then, hormonal treatment is decided based on the type of hormone, positive or negative. And targeted therapy, which is in terms of chemotherapy, is based on other histological factors and this immunohistochemistry markers. Then the new for the nowadays, it's an era of immunotherapy. So many drug molecule are available. So it depends, and it is based on your there are markers which decides whether you're suitable for it or not, and it is always based on the prescription of an oncologist. They evaluate you for the right treatment. But overall, what is important in saving life is the cure of disease. which is important as surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and hormonal therapy. And most of the cancer center, like in state and the central government, now gives all the essentials treatment free of cost. You can get it. The major problem is the long waiting list, which is, and everybody should be given a fair chance to live with the disease. So probably whatever you come with stage 1 with your good awareness and detected as stage 1, if you are a queue for surgery for 3 months, probably you won't get the benefit that you will achieve with the early
From
diagnosis.
early detection. Saumil, let me come to you. Dr. Julka, Dr. Sarangi have given us a lot of hope. And like I mentioned, we had the doctor from Tamil Nadu, from Apollo Tamil Nadu. She had joined us and told us how the government is providing cancer care at very affordable rates. Mammograms to be done for just 200 rupees for those who present themselves. So, how is Novartis working along with the government? Because, if treatment is considered accessible, if treatment is considered doable, then perhaps more people will come out should they sense a problem.
Let me again go back to the Orissa example where we're working with Japaigo very closely. And as Dr. Sarangi also mentioned, right, the whole idea is that how do we have enough trained resources on the ground so that they can help diagnose patients at an early stage. So once this model looks successful, we look at replicating this model in various states. And he also mentioned the name of Dr. Pendarkar, who did work in Orissa. Not only Orissa, he's gone to many states across the country, whether it is MP in the north. So he's done a lot of work around that. From a Novartis perspective, we've been with breast cancer for more than 30 years now, trying to get all the possible innovation that we have, which can benefit patients across the country. Now, one thing still clearly remains that, in the last 2 or 3 years, if you see government launch Ayushman Bharat, and they have a package per patient. Now, the way it is helping, and of course, as Dr. Abhishek also mentioned some time back, right, there is a waiting line. It's not that everyone has got benefit out of it, or there are patients who are still waiting for it. Here, what happens is at this point of time, basic chemotherapy, surgery, everything is available. What we're trying to work right now, Anisha, is that we have drugs where, and a lot of companies who have innovative molecules, the overall survival in advanced cancer is gone way beyond 6 years, and patients benefit much beyond, where in the past there was not so much hope when it came to advanced cancer. The overall survival was very low. So we now looking at opportunities where we can work very closely with the government to get all these innovative molecules. Dr. Sarangi mentioned that availability of patented molecules is a concern. That is still not.
I will never agree to have the innovative molecules to be under free drug scheme.
Yeah, sir, if I may, with due respect, if I may just make a point here, and what I'm trying to say here is that within Ayushman Bharat and within other schemes which are available, there is enough scope of partnership that's available, and these molecules also, especially for patients. And you mentioned, Dr. Julka also mentioned, right, still 80% of our patients present with advanced breast cancer. Not everyone presents with an early breast cancer. There are products which are available which can really help these patients, and the whole idea being moving forward as to how we can get these products to those patients, especially below the poverty line. See, in India, we have a income pyramid. People who are affluent, they can import the drugs from US or not registered in our country, right? You have the below poverty line patient. Certain states are doing fantastic job, like your state, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal. They're providing all the possible treatment, Assam for that matter. They're providing all the possible treatment that's available to the patient, a lot of time free of cost as well. The issue comes is, as we call it, the middle class population, right? It's the forgotten middle class. While what happens is that companies, and most companies in the innovative space, they launch a lot of programs which are tiered pricing programs. They try to help out these patients, but again, there also most of us are at the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge thing that needs to be done. So what we're doing from our perspective is on one hand try to help the middle class population, where cash is not an issue. You tell them you have to arrange 5 lakhs over a year, they'll be able to arrange. But if you tell them arrange 5 lakhs tomorrow, it may be a challenge for them. So we're trying to work on those models, trying to make it more accessible. And from a government perspective, we're trying to work with the Ayushman Bharat part, and that's where we are really looking at if we can get this innovative molecules there, try to offer it so people with advanced breast cancer can benefit. Now, in a country of our size, there will always be different views, there will always be different ideas, whether it is doable, not doable, your thought is right, my thought is right. So, people will have various perspectives, but we'll try and take this as ahead. And just, I mean, if I can build on this, Anisha, I'll take one more moment is, what's also happening is, if you look at the role of AI, right? So, I mean, artificial intelligence is here, and moving forward, it will definitely help us in diagnosis and a lot of other things. But if we really want AI to benefit in our benefit in our country, one of the biggest thing is we need to start collating data of patients. Unfortunately, I mean, in our country, we treat n number of patients, but if you ask for central registries and stuff, that's very little thing that's
few
happening.
registries are
Very few registries.
Now the scene is changing with.
No. We have.
Agreed. Sir, I'm saying pan India.
So far,
ICMR coming.
There is a center called National Center for Disease Informatics and Research, which is headed by Tarun Mathur. It is in Bangalore. So they are having the hospital-based and the population-based cancer registry, and they have presented the data also. So that's why we know that in India, every year we have 15 lakhs new cancer patients. At one point of time, we have 45 lakh cancer patients either surviving, taking treatment, and every year we lose around 7.5 lakh cancer patients. So this is all because of NCDIR data, which is
and sir, that's the point I was trying to make, that once we have more and
more
data coming in, it will help
more AI options.
More AI options, and at the end of the day, it's a public-private partnership, right? We cannot depend everything that the government will do everything for everyone, or the company can take up the entire cost and do it for all the patients within the pyramid. So it's always going to be a public-private partnership. Like we've tied up with Japaigo, we're working actively with advocacy so that we can work with the government of India and make the drugs and the technology more accessible to the patients.
Right. Anju, want to ask you, when you found out that you had cancer, were you concerned about the cost of treatment? Were you already insured? What was that part of the journey like for you?
So fortunately for me, that was not like the biggest challenge because I was insured, though the OncoDX test was not covered because that was in the US, and anything outside India is not covered. So the cost of treatment was not the biggest challenge because it was, I think that it can become a challenge post, because after that I haven't gotten insurance. After having gone through cancer, I haven't got insurance.
So stage 1 breast cancer, the cost of treatment is not a challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge comes when you have an advanced cancer. And what is it saying, that if you are an advanced metastatic cancer and the drugs which are available in the market, suppose it can give you a case, this drug is going to cure you, maybe give you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years survival. Maybe in that way, somebody can think of investing that amount. Suppose it doesn't give you a real good, very good survival advantage, then obviously if you have a minimal resource country, the government has to think twice to invest in such a investment. They have a very good program for nilotinib, and that's really good program for leukemia, where you buy 1 pack and you get 30 packs free. That's a really good patient assistance program. And this time is for every drug which is coming, new drug which is coming to the market for affordable, non-affordable population. Maybe that is one of the solutions which can be affordable.
Right.
So I want to just add some. May I just add?
Yeah. So go ahead, Anju.
Just to add to what Dr. Sarangi said, I also feel, because we've been having this discussion about the role of the government, the role of various institutions, and I feel that it's also very important to understand, like I think Somil also said, that neither the government has the solution, nor like private care has the solution. So there is going to be a middle path. I also feel that in between comes the corporates, the industries, the startups, the business ecosystem. I'm talking at least for the urban India. Where it comes to the extending healthcare benefits to your employees, when it comes to really taking that sort of extra step. A lot of organizations do it, but a lot of organizations shy away from it. So I think that should also be something that they can help shoulder, because I know personally, I know of friends who are in some organizations, and they, when the organization actually got to know that this person is undergoing this treatment, or has some family issue, they let the person go, because that was a way of saying, tomorrow we'll have to take care of this. They call it the healthcare burden. So I think that this is something that everybody has to come together to, and not just pass the buck on to one institution.
Yeah, and that's a real shame if this happened. Why would you? I mean, this is really not shouldn't go by. Dr. Julka, now, like Somil also spoke that, you can't just say that the government will cover everyone for cancer treatment, and you can't have the companies also subsidizing every cancer patient in our country. The burden is very large. So what is the middle ground? Because, Dr. Shankar said he I think gave the example of Patna and said there are 3 private centers for every government one. But of course, if there's a demand, there will be a supply. If people want treatment, private centers will come up. So what is the way forward where we have better cancer care with both the government and the private centers? Is greater insurance coverage the answer? How do we move ahead?
Yeah, greater insurance coverage, as you said, because in the US, people who don't have the insurance, they tell them that you cannot be treated at all. So they don't get the treatment at all, because most of the hospitals, they send them off. Now, this is besides the point. When I was in government, I was in National Cancer Control Program, myself and Dr. Rad. We were together in National Cancer Control Program, which we started way back in 1980s, and it went on slowly. And then we built up, various cancer centers in the country. I had gone personally to various cancer centers and built them up. For each state, we wanted one national cancer center, which we called regional cancer center. And for that would cater to certain districts. So we made sure that all people should get equal care. Just like in AIMS, irrespective of whether he was a PM or he was a prime minister or president, he got the same treatment. Same treatment. And all the VIPs used to come to AIMS to me, because all the ministers, everybody, he knows, Dr. Shankar knows about it. And even the lowest, came to me and got the same treatment. What I mean to say, the middle path is what we started in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And I told them, on NDTV, I had a fight with the health secretary that time, about 10 years back. I said, education and health are not priorities for you. Which should be the priorities for our country? Education and health. And at that time he realized what is happening. I had a big fight. And so what I mean to say, that you keep on building hospitals after hospitals, but unless and until you stress on prevention of cancer, you stress on this, because population will keep on growing, they will keep on getting cancers. And you may have, suppose in Cuttack you have one big hospital, you may have 10 hospitals, they will be short of supply after 10 years. So you can't keep on getting hospitals after hospital. You should lay more stress on prevention, that too primary prevention and secondary prevention. So all these areas are very important, which we should, say primary prevention means that, for 15 lakh cases per year, new cases we have, according to National Cancer Registry. We set up the cancer registries. I was in charge of Delhi Cancer Registry. Now let me tell you, out of which 40 to 50% are tobacco related. Now it may be a smoking tobacco or it may be a smokeless tobacco. So what we mean to say,
so this is the primary awareness, that you should avoid these risk factors, tobacco, no sedentary life. So this is the primary awareness. What is the secondary awareness, Dr. Julka?
Secondary awareness is early detection. Early detection means of the breast and cervix, and now the oral cancers also. These three are the common cancers which we find in India. You know, we should work on India-centric cancers. And as Dr. Abhishek also told, and the major problem here is breast cancer awareness should be such that people come in early stage. And let me tell you, in stage 1, the curability is more than 90%.
Yeah, we have a living example with us, right? Anju's there, and we have many examples of women who are
in stage 1 and 2, early stages, we get the cancer of the breast or cervix cancer. You know, Tata Memorial had done a beautiful study painting, you know, he knows in Bombay, in a slum area. They did a study on painting with acetic acid, you know, painting the cervix. And white patches, wherever there were white patches, they used to do a biopsy and send it to the doctor. And if that was positive, patient was treated. So stage 1, if we detect, it should be treated immediately. It should not become stage 4 or stage 3 till we give them a big dates for radiotherapy or for chemotherapy or for surgery. No dates, immediate. And even in AIMS, I used to get the patient 100 patients per day and treated immediately.
That's amazing, Dr. Julka. That's amazing. Now, we're coming to the close of the show, and I'm going to take some closing comments. I'll start with you, Soumil.
Yeah, so I think I would just first add to what Dr. Julka said and then one closing comment. So give me a minute here. And from an insurance perspective, I think that's where a lot of awareness still needs to come in, because now there are critical illness, specific cancer covers are available where, you know, someone is diagnosed, they get like 20 lakh rupees at that point of time. And we hear that government is also now PMJY for the middle class, they're working on a premium based model as well. So they can get the same access by paying a little premium. So, you know, if these things can be really is well educated well to people, a lot of them can benefit, and because the premium you pay is very minimal there. From a closing comment perspective, I think I would like to say that we are committed to the cause of breast cancer, being here for 30 years. And you know, even if because as Dr. Shankar also earlier mentioned, that the whole treatment is now moving now to a mutation driven therapy. Sometimes where there are very few patients who would have this specific mutations. In 1 lakh you may get 100 or 1,000 patients only, but we committed to get all these medicines which we would have out of our innovation to India. And the second biggest thing is we will continue our pursue with the government, work very closely to get drugs which have good survival benefit for patients with advanced breast cancer under Ayushman Bharat. I think that's one of the biggest objective we want to work on, so that at least 50% of the patients below poverty line patients who are there, we can definitely help them as we move forward. So that would be my concluding remark, Anisha here. Thank you.
Right. Anju, what would you like to say in conclusion?
No, I'd just like to say, firstly, thank you for having me here with this August, panel. I mean, seriously, these are all lifesavers. So I would just say that, there's a reason they are there. And trust them, trust their judgment, trust their wisdom. I mean, and the other thing that I would say is that for the caregivers, that it is very natural to panic when somebody very close to you, undergoes cancer. And I think for that reason, it is very important to know your right sources of information. Not just pick up any Google research and everything. So you keep listening to conversations so that you know who are the right kind of doctors, right institutions, and you're able to establish that trust. And lastly, of course, trust your own wisdom and trust your life to be able to live well.
Thank you, Anju. Dr. Sarangi, in conclusion, what would you like to say? We want to create awareness, but for the different kinds of treatments that could be available. In conclusion, what do you think is going to work best?
You have to demystify cancer treatment. Cancer treatment is being, everybody thinks that it's a very, treatment has to be done by very high profile people, then only you will survive. You have to demystify it. And task shifting, I like the comment of Dr. Shankar, moonshot should stop. You should have ground activities, and you have to decentralize, create more manpower at a ground level, be it a doctor, be it a paramedical, nurses, and identify one surgeon and one gynecologist in each district who can do very simple things. In Odisha, what we have asked them, we are going to have them in our setup for about 3 months, one gynecologist, one surgeon. And here the cancer stomach is one of the highest, and breast cancer. We will teach them to how to take a good biopsy, how to do a good mastectomy, and how to do a good distal radical gastrectomy. Possibly, if they can go back and apply them in the district headquarters hospital, now these hospitals are well equipped. I think we will have to push the cancer treatment to ground level, and they have to go out of the cities and cancer hospitals.
We have to make it more accessible to everyone.
Absolutely, yes.
Dr. Julka, what would you like to say in your closing comments?
First and foremost is all cancer treatments must be accessible to the patients near their hometown. They don't have to, go to 1,000 miles and 500 miles off and then get the treatment, proper treatment. They should have at their doorstep. For that, what we need is more human resource development. As told earlier, we need more centers and more stress on prevention and early detection. That is the hallmark. I always say early detection is the hallmark to cure. So that note, I think I would like to add.
Dr. Shankar, what would you say in your closing comments?
My final take will be we must come together to work on community-based cancer prevention, and we must work on socio-cultural determinants of cancer. This is the only way we can minimize the disparity and inequality in cancer care, and we can achieve a social justice as far as cancer care is concerned, because crucial illness is I, so we have to lead this world, and crucial letter in wellness is we, so we have to adopt this policy we, and we have to be optimistic and try to convert every difficulty into an opportunity.
I would like to thank all of you for taking the time out and joining us today to talk about cancer care and how the landscape has changed over the years in our country and how it is still evolving to give more access, better access to everybody in our country. Everybody in our country can hope for a cure for cancer should they detect it early. And it is our endeavor to try to increase awareness. And we hope that along with increased awareness and information and the innovation in medicine, we will also have more trained manpower across our country that will also help in early detection of cancers and hence better cure rates in our country. A big thank you to all of you for joining us today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining.